All right, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the crime reports for the month of April for Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo. And again, for the second month in a row, it says a max record count. So this only allows us to see 1,000 unless we divide it up. So there was 1,143 records for the month, and so we'll just take some of them out. That averages out to about roughly around 38 reports per day for the month of April. So let's just see what we got here. Let's take a few out that maybe aren't that important here. Let's take out vandalism. Okay, so there's 942 uh, records um, out of the 1,143. Out of those categories, those would make up the difference. All right, so we will just deselect all of these here and go over them. Again, don't really go over the arsons. Let's see how many they got. Four. Uh, yeah, we'll probably look at a couple of those. If you've seen our Lansing one, we talked a little bit about arson and how some interesting things were happening with them. But let's get to assaults. All right, so for the month of April, we have got 369 assaults. So still a pretty high number. Let me see if I can move this around here. There we go. Again, some of these are labeled differently in the way that it is classified in the crime. So a lot of these are going to be assault and batteries or simple assault. And let's see if we can find one that fits another category. A lot of these are going to be domestics. So anyway, that's what we have for the assaults for that month. Let's move on here. And I don't know if the prior months we talked about some of the stuff going down in Kalamazoo, but we'll definitely revisiting that. So 34 records for uh, breaking and entering or burglary. These are also classified as home invasions. This one here is more than likely going to be a home invasion. And again, we're coming out with some of these reports here pretty quick. So we have a lot of forced entries. Um, let's see. There was one, maybe it's in Kalamazoo. Okay. I didn't really get a chance to look over too much of this, but we do have some of the reports coming in. We're just working on marches currently at the time. So let's go back. We're not going to go over disturbing the peace or drugs or alcohol. Well, maybe. Sometimes we find some interesting things, and you'll see something when I get to Kalamazoo. Uh, Still a lot of the same things. There's a lot more of the intox in a motor vehicle, but we still have a lot of crack, a lot of cocaine, the possession of those. There was one on here. I just want to see that address, and I'll tell you why here in a little bit. Um, so some of these we'll look at. It's been a minute since I've looked at much in Grand Rapids, but anyway, for the month, there's 85 records that deal with drugs and alcohol. It seems to be more this month for the drugs and alcohol related. If you look back at some of the other crime reports that we did or the crime mapping, you can obviously tell there's a lot more uh, intox in a motor vehicle than in prior months, but still about the same. Maybe a few more of the drug related offenses, typically crack, cocaine, and heroin in the area. And so, very interesting to look at, but we don't really pay a whole lot of attention unless we see something that's pretty juicy. So let's keep going down. We're going to just avoid DWIs. Fraud's not something I really pay too much attention to. However, okay, I'm kind of interested in that one. And there was one more on here that I seen the other day. Well, maybe if I can find it. Um, a lot of these ones, in the previous months, we looked at some of these fraud ones and they dealt with bank robberies. So uh, most of the time that we've been finding those are still under investigation. So we didn't forget about those. Um, the bank robbery ones are always unique, but most of the time, those are the ones that are addicted to like methamphetamine. That seem to be knocking those off. Those ATMs are pulling some kind of robbery from a bank. Let's see what we have as homicides. None. Okay. So we'll click out of these. Theft from a motor vehicle. Still quite a few. We got 45 in Grand Rapids. Um, Most important thing with these in the way of protecting yourself is lock your doors in your vehicle and make sure that you know obviously you don't have valuable items in plain sight. Now these robberies, these are pretty funny. The ones that come out of Grand Rapids. I don't know if you guys had seen the one that we put out. It might have been on Patreon. We definitely put it on our Facebook page where, one fella got beat with a sock. And so that one was pretty funny. But Grand Rapids has always just got some, oh, what's going on here? Hold on one second. All right. Grand Rapids just always got some really, just to me, they're kind of funny. So kind of curious to see what kind of weapons we got here. You'll see some with some businesses, the street related ones, carjacking. Now, the last carjacking report that we got, it was still under investigation. I think we actually just got that back from a few months back. But you can see some more carjackings. Let's see. I thought there was one more on here. So I'm kind of curious about this one as well. But anyway, becoming a little more common. There's definitely a few more of these this month or for the month of April than in prior months. So, um, yeah, we'll keep moving on. And hopefully we get some of the April ones back here within the next week. We're trying to speed this stuff up for you so you guys could actually see the reports. We don't put a whole lot of them on YouTube. So, sex crimes, let's see what we have. 40 records. Okay. And again, not all these are going to be actual sex crimes. This one obviously was. Some of them are going to be indecent exposure. Could be urinating in public. Could just be some weirdo, opening up his trench coat in an elevator. Who knows? Uh, these are hard to get back. Sometimes when we do get them back, though, as usual, we don't put them out. It just depends. So let's go from sex crimes. Let's go down. Theft and larceny. I barely ever pay attention to these. However, quite a few more. 181 for the month. Just larceny. Okay. So there's that. And then let's see what we have in the way of vandalism. None. No. 126. Okay. I was about to say, I'm pretty sure they had some. And let's see. I don't follow these too much, but lately I haven't been able to find anything that was worth. Sometimes we'll file for the report on some of these just to see what they're about and if we can get some good footage. Lately we haven't been able to do that. So the disturbing the peace ones, though, those are kind of funny sometimes too. And vehicle theft break-ins. Okay. Oh, wait. I messed that one up. So this was motor vehicle theft up here with the carjacking ones we talked about. This is the vehicle theft break-ins. Okay. So this would be where it would be important to lock your doors in your vehicle and make sure that there's nothing uh, exposed, no valuable items. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back down to the weapons charges. So in Grand Rapids, the weapons charges we have are 33. Okay. Now, most of the reports that we have for Grand Rapids, usually these are illegal. Okay, so like this one here, you'll see in parentheses it says CCW auto. That's going to be in a vehicle. This guy was probably not supposed to have a weapon and did inside of a vehicle, and it was probably a traffic stop. But a lot of times, what we see is they are law abiding citizens that simply don't know the law. However, Grand Rapids, though, has got a little bit more of the weapons firing, careless and reckless. They have a lot more charges in the way of criminal activity than other areas do. So, and I'm not sure why that is. Uh, but anyway, 33 records, and we'll be pulling some of those reports out for you as well. So that does it for the Grand Rapids area. Let's take a look at Kalamazoo. Now, Kalamazoo, little different this time of year. Okay, so you're definitely going to see if you follow some of the other crime reportings that we do. Let's see if we can get there first. All right, now we're down to the Kalamazoo area. So you'll notice, like last month and this month, definitely quite a few more records than in prior months. Last month was up in the 400s, and again for April, we are back up past 400. Now, Kalamazoo is not even that big. Okay. So this to me is climbing just for those 2 months. And for the next few, at least through summertime, I would expect to see about the same, maybe a little more. But anyway, let's go ahead and break it down. So for arsons, I thought there was more than one. Okay, that's a residence. Huh. Wonder if they got ring. Might check it out. Um, anyway, so you have one, quite a few assaults, 163. You know, in some of these reports that we read on here, you know, these domestics, man, it's hard to see that families be going through that stuff, or even in relationships. Like, I don't know what some of these dudes are thinking, but I really don't know what the heck some of these girls are thinking. But anyway, quite a few records. There was 163 for assaults, the burglaries, 32. A lot of these are home invasions. We did get some of these back already, and so those will be out here shortly. But um, there was another thing I wanted to mention with Grand Rapids. Now, I go to Grand Rapids to do some shopping or do events up there, things like that. But I noticed there was one pattern with the division. I think it was division. I don't know if it was north or south. But anyway, so we're definitely gonna be paying attention to that. If you live in the Grand Rapids area, um, you know, pay attention to that area because the crime stretches pretty far. Um, trying to draw some patterns between some things there. But anyway, we'll get into that later on. So disturbing the peace, eh, nothing real interesting. There's 10 records. We don't follow those either. So there you have it. Let's check out some fraud. Now, I think this was I gotta find it. Um, I don't know where it's at, but I found one that was kind of interesting the other day. And I was like, What is this about? But when I, yeah, I'm going to have to find it. But there's 33. I thought it was interesting as I was doing some research. Uh, Maybe it was larceny that I was thinking of. Anyway, it's easy to get lost in this. Let's see what we got for homicides. Two. Two. Okay. Now, let's go to the vehicle theft. Again, 28 records. The thing about these vehicle thefts, uh, zero block of Court Street, huh? Hmm, that's pretty interesting. A lot of these, I kind of feel bad for our youth here because a lot of these vehicle thefts are coming from minors. All right. And you can't really blame them because if they're not going to get in trouble for it, then, what would you do if you wouldn't get in trouble? But at the same time, we're raising a generation of people who are just careless, right? And obviously, from what we've seen, if you've seen the one we did on YouTube, uh, you know, all of the suspects inside of the vehicle were minors, and then you've seen the chase that was around the Lansing area. Um, the majority of those were minors. I think two of them were over the age of 18, but the other ones were minors. Okay. And so it kind of, these kind of tell you a little bit about a backstory too, because the driver, the one who initially stole the car, usually, not all the time, but a larger percentage of the time, has a weapon with them that is not registered to them. So it's kind of troubling to see the amount of vehicle thefts, especially with the younger ones. The older people, well, then just shame on them. They should know better, and you know. But anyway, so we have a few robberies. We have 5 for the month. Uh, yeah, okay, just 5. We'll be pulling these too. We haven't gotten any of these back yet. Sex crimes. It always appears that Kalamazoo never has any of these. So good for them. I'm not sure if that's because none of them are reported or if they don't actually happen, but however, we're not seeing them from law enforcement agencies, and so that's a good thing. Then we have 61 records for larceny. These don't really get descriptive too much. So, anyway, let's move to, and we can check out some vandalism. Okay, there's 35 records of vandalism. Let's see if there's anything that shows up here. Again, I don't really say or pay any attention to these, so I couldn't tell you what they're about. But anyway, there was 35 for the month of April, and let's keep moving on. Vehicle thefts, break-ins, 33 for the month. I can't tell you if that's up or down. Um, anyway, so we'll have a few of those. Those are relatively boring to read. Um, but there's 33 records. We probably won't put any of those out unless we notice something in particular with them. Now, with the robberies, I think that's where I wanted to try to hit on earlier. Some of the robberies or burglaries, we filed the reports for, people who have been caught with burglary tools. And I thought that was very interesting in some parts like Grand Rapids and the Lansing area. Um, Even though they were still under investigation and we haven't gotten any of them back, we're starting to draw a line between different home invasions and car thefts, and so or vehicle theft break-ins, and maybe they're related. I'm really not sure yet, and that was kind of one of the things that I was trying to pay attention to with fraud, because usually we don't pay attention to fraud. However, we are trying to trace a link between vehicle break-ins and those fraud cases, just to see if there's any kind of connection. So time will tell. And then, of course, let's move to where's the this is the one I wanted to talk about, right? Yeah. All right. So remember in previous months, okay? In previous months, now look at this map and you see 37 records for April. Do you guys notice anything for those of you who follow and pay attention to this on Facebook and YouTube? Okay, so we still have quite a big meth issue, and there's some crack and some coke, and then some more methamphetamines. And now, remember, I told you I thought something was definitely going on because of just different things that we've seen. Now, I think Kalamazoo. Now, notice you're not seeing specific places, or you know how you get the large numbers here. Okay. And I don't want to say a whole lot right now because I think it's going to eventually show. All right. But Kalamazoo, you guys should be paying attention to the drug stuff because I just have a feeling or an inclination, maybe not really a feeling, but I think we're going to see less of this. Okay. Because there's not a whole lot of these that are DWIs or alcohol related offenses. Most of these that we see, and that's not to say they're not happening, but we see the majority of them. In fact, I'm not finding one drinking and driving. Anyway, so we see the drug issue that's going on there, and so people in that community need to be paying attention to that. All right, so let's see what we got now. I just wanted to real briefly mention that, and if you've watched our other ones in prior months, I think even last month, you could still see some traces on the map of different things, but that's worth paying attention to. So we did the vehicle theft break-ins. Let's go to the weapons. One thing in Kalamazoo that we always find that we haven't really been able to find this month. Well, maybe it's in. I thought that was in Grand Rapids. Maybe it's this one right here. Teaching someone to use IEDs. Nope, that might have been Lansing or Grand Rapids. Anyway, we're trying to pull that report. So a lot of these are just going to be different. Now, same thing. Most of these are law-abiding citizens that now maybe not this time, but most of the time around this area, it's law-abiding citizens that just do something against the law or they simply don't remember the law. But from time to time, we find some criminals that do. We did request a lot of information on a couple different cases, so we didn't put a whole lot of those out. Maybe we will, but they happened back in like February. So time has lapsed pretty much for quite some time. Anyway, that is where we're at for the month of April. I just wanted to keep you informed. Going forward, as we put out reports, like I said, we don't always put this stuff out on YouTube. Typically, it's our Patreon, and there's a lot of free content on there. It's not all subscriber based, but Patreon just is better with the material that we put out. They don't really block us. Facebook, on the other hand, we keep getting shut out of them. So when it opens back up and we get out of Facebook jail, we will definitely post these up on Facebook along with the reports as they come in. So anyway, that is where we're at for the month of April, and May will be coming out at the end of May. Talk to you later. Have a good one. God bless.